Hello, thanks for joining me on another video. Tomorrow I'm going on a wee adventure and I'll talk you through some of the kit that I'm taking. It's the middle of March, towards the end of March, and we're right in between spring and winter, kind of at ground level, or sea level, sorry. It's pretty much spring, but up high in the hills I think it's still winter, so the kit that I'm taking reflects that. The forecast is to be good, is to not really have any rain on day one, maybe some on day two. It's to be mostly sunny on day one and moderate winds, not too windy. So I'm taking a mix of winter and kind of spring kit with me, and I'll run through that fairly quickly. So I'm going to take my winter boots. If you look at a couple of videos back, I went into these in more detail. So I'm taking them along with the full crampon. The reason for that, I probably won't need them or could get away without them, but the route that I'm doing has a couple of tricky sections on it. I've never done the route before, but I believe it's got a few slightly tricky sections. Easy in summer, but if there's snow and ice on them, then potentially a wee bit difficult. So I want to make sure I'm safe on them. So I'm going to take my full boot, my full crampon, and I'm actually going to take 2 ice axes just to be on the safe side. Probably, most likely overkill, but I prefer to be conservative. So I'm taking that. The other main piece of winter kit that I'm taking, and you'll see this in the video, but I'm taking my winter tent, so the Terra Voyager tent, and that's freestanding. It's very good in the wind. I'm thinking I might try and camp on the summit, and it might be icy up there. So again, just want to make sure I've got my kind of strongest tent with me, both for the wind, that's freestanding on ice. Yeah, just that added margin just in case. So they're the kind of 2 main bits of winter kit that I'm taking. The rest is pretty much my spring autumn kit. And you'll have seen most of it before if you've watched any of my videos. So I'm taking my 3 season sleeping bag, and my 3 season mat, so that's the Thermarest Neo Air. I am taking 2 foam mats, just in case the Neo Air fails. I like to do that. I'm taking a pillow, as usual. I suppose the other bit of winter kit I'm taking is I am going to take a full mitt, a set of gloves like that, you know, and that's my winter gloves. So I'm taking that and a couple of other pairs of gloves as well. As ever, just kind of standard bag of electrics, my head torch, my compass, a spare compass, a spare head torch, my locator beacon, all of that sort of thing. A bag of food, spare clothes. I am going to take a down jacket. I've actually got 2 down jackets in, and I will probably take them both. So spare clothes for the tent. I don't always do that, but I will, because it is going to be a long day. I'm taking a wee cooker, a wee stove. If you look at my last video, you can see my setup for that. A bag of food, and I think that's pretty much it. First aid kit, I've got the map. Yeah, I explained this in my last video as well. I keep the map in here along with my one of my compasses, so that they're right there and accessible. And then in here I've got food, and I think it's just food and my GoPro in there. In terms of clothes, it's definitely spring clothes. I've got my Paramo trousers, not the warmest ones, these aren't my winter ones, these are kind of a lighter pair. They provide some insulation, you can wear them all day even if it's wet, they're windproof, but they're not exceptionally warm or heavy. A kind of synthetic wool mixed base layer, a fleece, and it's a wind shirt. So this is the buffalo wind shirt. I always use it. I think it's brilliant. I've had one for years and I love it. And that's, if anyone's interested, the fleece is Polartec Alpha fleece. It's a MacPack Nitro. I haven't had that too long, but I'm finding it pretty good so far. I'll report on that later. So that's the setup for tomorrow. Very quickly going over it. So hoping for a good walk, hoping for nice weather, hoping maybe to get a summit camp, but we'll see if the wind will allow it. The wind is to be kind of moderate, so I might need to drop down and camp, so we'll see how I get on. A base weight of 11.5 kilos without food or fuel, 11.6. That's been really hard work coming up. You'll see behind me, that's Loch Mullardoch, and I'm doing the 4 munros to the north of the loch. It's very steep when you start, and the temperature's already quite high lower down. I'm expecting it to cool down as I get higher, but certainly here it's quite high. I'm just down to my base layer, and you can probably see I've been sweating heavily coming up, so stopping for a drink before pressing on. I've still got quite a long way to go to get to the first summit, but glorious views. As I got higher up, the snow got deeper and the GoPro doesn't really show it, the steepness. But I was kick stepping for quite a while up this slope, and then eventually it was time to stop and put on the crampons. There was a soft layer of snow on top, but underneath it was quite icy, and I was on my own. It was remote, it was steep, and the exposure on this slope in particular was significant, so it was time to put on the crampons. Kind of ended up taking the crampons on and off
rougher sections for most of the day, but that was fine. I was glad I had brought them.
That was a steep wee section there. Certainly glad that I had the full crampons and my ice axe. I'm completely out of water, so I'm really pleased to find this little stream. It's a windy, or reasonably windy day and quite warm, so you kind of get dehydrated without noticing it. So I'm really pleased, and I'll show you the views. They're stunning. Look at these views. Almost at the third Munro. Got the crampons on, walking over quite a lot of ice, and the views are just fantastic. The strange thing though, over there, there's a fire unfortunately of some sort, so a really strong smell of burning. It's just brilliant blue sky day and fantastic conditions to walk in. To walk up this. So I decided not to pitch on the summit. It was a wee bit windy, a wee bit narrow, and there was no water, and I was out of water, so I've dropped down a little bit, just to about 850 metres, and I've found a really good water source. It's just about 10 minutes walk away. So I've just gone and filled up. I will show you. Look at this. Ice cold snow melt. Lovely. So I've filled up with water, and I've still got a good pitch. I'll turn you around in a minute and you can see I've got the view of the sunset should still be good, and the view of the hills behind me. I'll show you them. Should be good as well. There's the tent all pitched. Still get great views that way of the sunset when it comes. And I'll show you back up there into the quarry. The only thing that was concerning me was these fires that I think have been lit over there. A lot of smoke all day coming from them, but it looks like they've been deliberately set, and they're a bit lower down, and the ground between me and them, as I've just found out, is very wet, so all in all I'm hoping it will be okay. This is just beyond the door of my tent. Just making a little cup of tea before bed. I've had my dinner and been out to see the stars, which are fantastic. And I'm in my sleeping bag and a cup of tea and then bed. Let's see what's our morning we've got. I can hear that it's just been raining. It seems to have dried up. I'm just sitting about to have a very nice coffee inside the tent with the door open, and the sun had been behind the clouds but it's just popped through between a crack in the clouds. It's absolutely stunning. What a great start to the day. Little bit of rain as I've been packing up, but there we go. Leaves no trace as always, and still some fantastic views. Stopped for a wee break. You can see just up there, that's where I camped last night. The clouds come down and the campsite would be in the cloud now, but you can see I've come all the way down there and now I'm just walking along the side of Loch Mullardoch, which is lovely. It's very warm though, so taking off a few layers, walking down the side. Lovely day. I hope you enjoyed watching that video. You'll see that I was very fortunate with the weather. It was very good weather, which made for a really enjoyable trip. It was very hazy, so you'll notice that the views weren't fantastic because of the haze, and that was compounded by that smoke from the fires that you saw. So the views weren't fantastic, but it was still a great couple of days out on the hill, and certainly the camp spot that I had was one of the best I've ever had. The sunset was just brilliant, and it was a fantastic location. So it was a very good trip. In terms of the kit that I took, I was really glad that I'd taken my winter boots and my full crampon. There was, I think, 4 sections where I had to put my crampons on, and 2 of them would have been very difficult or dangerous without the full crampon, and certainly one of them, on the ascent to the second summit, it's quite steep and there's a degree of exposure where to take a slip, it would be a long way before you stopped. And you are very remote, so I was certainly glad of the full crampon. I'd also taken my heavier tent, which proved to be not something that I needed. I could easily have got away with a lighter tent, because it didn't end up camping on the ice, and the wind where I dropped down was much lower. So I didn't need the heavier tent, but that's just the way that it goes. Everything else was good. I didn't need the down jackets. I did wear them just because I had them, but I could have got away without them. So there was a wee bit of weight there that was maybe wasted. But other than that, everything was pretty much spot on in terms of taking my kind of spring wardrobe to the hill. That all worked fine. The one thing I didn't mention was the backpack that I took. So you might have noticed that I took this pack rather than the previous one. So I normally use the Gregory Optic 58 in winter. It's actually developed a fault, and it's a known fault with the pack. The left hip belt comes away, and that's happened in mine, so I've had to send it back to Germany for repair. It's going to be away for a couple of months, it looks like, which is annoying, although I am coming into spring when I would use a different pack anyway. So the pack that I had to use was this one, which is 45 to 70 litres, so it's also quite large. But the thing about this pack is that it's primarily designed for climbing rather than kind of backpacking. So it doesn't have a frame, and it doesn't have some of the kind of features that you would like when you're backpacking. It doesn't have external pockets, for example, for water bottles or clothes or anything like that. So I had to use that. It was okay. It doesn't carry weight as well, but it actually wasn't too bad. I did kind of put the tent poles down the back of it to stiffen it up a little bit, and it wasn't too bad at all. But that's why I was using that backpack. So overall, another really good trip. Thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one.